So today, I just wanted to talk to you about what I'm seeing in the Montana real estate market right now. I've seen this movie before, and I just want to share some information with you that could help you decide what you should be doing in this market in the coming year. So I'm sure you guys have seen it. The news is everywhere, and you can look anywhere online, and this is what you see. Let's look at YouTube right now and check this out. Real estate market crash, the coming collapse. Why will 2023 be worse? Is now the worst time to buy a house? New update on foreclosures and delinquencies. Don't buy a house. 40% drop. It's going to get ugly. The beginning of the collapse. I mean, look at this. This is crazy. Don't buy anything. Don't buy anything in the next 2 years. What's wrong about the housing crash? It's crazy that everybody's making these videos. The end of real estate. Everyone is making these videos because people click on them. And the same thing goes for some of the articles in the paper. You got this one here, collapse in home prices is coming. And another one, housing market has further to fall as buyers walk away and sellers scramble for profit. So these are all pretty shocking headlines, and basically they want you to click and read their story. And this is a trick as old as time.
So what would you rather read? This article, everything that you own will be worth nothing next week? Or would you rather read this article, the U.S. economy is the best it's ever been and sunny days ahead? Of course, you're going to click on the one that's more shocking and the one that scares you more, and that's why they do this. And another little tip for you when you're reading these articles is, let's go back to the one we talked about earlier, this collapse in home prices. If you read the last paragraph, bottom line, some decline in home prices is likely in the offing. It won't be a disaster, and lower prices will be welcomed by frustrated would-be buyers. And another one, this is a blog that I get, and the headline of this article, economists say home prices have dropped for 9 months straight and are now about to drop significantly. But then you go to the end, analysts see a housing market correction but do not expect a bust. We are unlikely to see a 2008 U.S. housing market crisis.
So right now there's two types of people in the world. There are people that are reading all these headlines and getting freaked out and running for cover. And there's people that are out there excited about this and looking for opportunities because there's tons of them now. Suddenly, unlike the last few years when it was such a seller's market, it's suddenly shifted. So now if you're looking to get into something, there's some great opportunities. There's opportunities that we haven't seen in years that are happening right now. So I was in the business back in 2008 when the last big crash happened. And look we've all survived. And I know that some people got some great deals back then. In fact, I sold a house in Columbia Falls, a 4-bedroom house. I just looked it up on my old data from MLS. It was a 4-bedroom house that sold for $65,000. Well, I bet you wish you had paid that at this point. I mean, because that same house now is selling for probably around $600,000. But there are all kinds of opportunities that are out there now, and there are all kinds of sellers that are now willing to work with you as a buyer.
Sellers are now agreeing to price reductions. Some are offering to pay down the rates or pay for closing costs. And something that never happened a year ago is that some sellers are actually agreeing to have a contingency for the sale of your house.
So back in 2008, it was the same horror stories in the paper, everybody saying the world's going to end and people running for cover. But the people that actually bought places back then, they made out great. And that's when most people become wealthy, is in times where everyone's running for cover. So the reason this market has slowed down, as I'm sure you know, is because of the interest rates have been driven up by the government trying to slow down inflation. Well, right now, if you look at this chart, we're at about 6.5%, And that obviously is as high as it's been in a few years. This chart goes all the way back to the 70s, where it was as high as, I think, 18%. And so right now it's 6.5%. Is it 3% like it was a year ago? No. But what they always say in this business is you can marry the house and date the rate, because the rate you can refinance. So if you do end up getting a house right now and you get that 6.5% rate, just keep in mind you can always refinance that. And once you lock in at the 6.5%, even if the rates go sky high, you're locked in. I mean, if you're looking to get into a house and flip it in a year or 2 years, yeah, maybe this is a bad idea. If you're looking for a long-term house in Montana that you're going to be in for at least 5 years, then I wouldn't be too concerned about all the gloom and doom you're hearing right now. Because if you lock in at 6.5%, again, you can refinance if the rates come down. And if they don't, you're good at 6.5%. So the reason I'm telling you all this is look at this chart here. This shows the prices that we've had, the average sales price here in Western Montana since 2009. And as you can see, it's a steady rise. There's a little bit of a drop in 2012, but then it continues to go up and up and up. And then as you can see, about early summer of 2020, it goes straight up. And if you remember what happened in early summer of 2020 is that was the beginning of COVID. It happened a month or two before that, and everyone started bailing out of the cities and coming here. And ironically enough, it coincides with the release of season 3 of Yellowstone, and that's when Yellowstone became very popular. So you see that shot straight up from the early 2020, and now it's starting to plateau a little bit, but I think what we're going to see is that, yes, that it is going to plateau a little bit more, but it's never going to come back down to what it once was. We have so many people that want to get out of the cities now. Now there's remote work possibilities for people. There's all kinds of reasons for people to want to be in Montana. And like I've told people forever, until they tear down the mountains and fill in the lakes, people are going to want to be here. And as you can see behind me, there's still mountains, and last time I checked, there's still water in the lakes. So people are going to want to be up here. There's always going to be demand for people to move to Montana. So these prices, I'm afraid, are not going to come down. I also talked to some people in Aspen and Vail, some agents over there, and because I think we're pretty similar to them as far as demand and being discovered in the place that people want to be. And they were telling me that once they were discovered, it was the same trajectory in prices. They started going up, and they may have leveled off a little bit in 2008, 2012, but ever since they've just continued to go up because it's where people want to be. I mean, most of these news stories are basing it on the entire country, and there's a lot of parts of the country that are going to take a big hit, and places that people aren't dying to get to. So obviously those places are going to go down. Here, I really don't see that happening. We may have a little bump right now, like I said, but it's just going to keep going up. And like those people that bought that house in Columbia Falls back in 08 or 09, whenever it was, they're pretty happy that they got it for $65,000. And I think the same thing's going to be said looking back at this time 10 years from now. So one last thing that I've thought about that's probably going to happen is with the rents here in the valley and in Western Montana in general, the rents keep going up and up and up, and it's a supply and demand issue. The rents are going up because there's not as many rentals available because of short-term rentals, or just investors buying up houses and using them for rentals. And because there's such a demand for rentals, they keep jacking the prices up. Well, once the rates do start coming back down, all these renters there's going to be a tipping point where it's going to get to be where the cost of rent doesn't make sense anymore. It's going to be cheaper to buy a house, or the payment's going to be less once the rates come down a little bit. So once the rates come down again, anybody that's holding out is going to end up against a whole bunch of other competition to buy the houses that are available again, and it's going to turn back into a seller's market because there's going to be so much more demand. So that's something else to keep in mind. And I'll leave you with this. It's the famous quote from Warren Buffett, and I think it applies to what's going on right now in the housing market. As he said, you should be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. And there's definitely a lot of people in fear right now, so keep that in mind.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call, text, or email for more information, and don't forget to watch our other videos about Montana.